Let's talk about good and evil and the principle of polarity and how we navigate around this dualism of good on one side and evil on the other. But before we do, hi, I'm Sandra from mysterywitchschool.com. If you're new to the channel and you want to become a Wiccan or you want to know more about Wicca, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss anything. So good and evil, a lot of people have different views on what good and evil actually are, whether they even exist. There are some mystical traditions that actually don't see evil or good as existing in and of themselves, that there's something that is created by us humans, that they're more of a concept. And I tend to probably agree more with those than I do with the more Western view that there is a good, inherent good, and there is inherent evil. That there's some kind of good force in the world, and then it's sort of like the evil, bad force. You know, you've got the Jedi on one side and the Sith on the other, and it's like you have to totally annihilate all the bad stuff and only ever have good stuff, or the good guys. And that just doesn't make sense either from a natural point of view, because nature certainly doesn't work that way. And it doesn't make sense from a spiritual point of view either. I wanted to bring in the principle of polarity again, and I have talked about the principle of polarity before. It's a Hermetic principle where things that are similar in essence but different by degree, meaning that they're kind of opposites. And we usually see good and evil as being these opposites. But the problem with a lot of our religious paradigms, and in particular the Western religious paradigms, and it also exists in other cultures too, is that we've somehow developed through our human evolution this concept that there is a battle between these two poles, and that somehow one has to win over the other. And we've even seen it with the conspiracy theories that are going on around all this stuff that's happening around COVID and all the things that are going on in the world at the moment at the time of this video, that some people believe there's this evil force that's trying to, you know, wipe out humanity and corrupt humanity, and it's some kind of a spiritual type of force that's just dead set on destroying us. And then there's, you know, the good force that's trying to sort of like battle against it. And so you sort of end up with these spiritual warriors. So that's kind of a way that paradigm of good and evil has sort of entered into the New Age and even infiltrated into some pagan way of thinking. But if you look again at the principle of polarity, where things are similar in essence but different by degree, and if you look at nature, you can see that what the hell is good and evil when you're looking at nature? If evil is supposed to be something that is defined as being morally wrong, then what's morality? Morality is subjective. In some cultures, it's right to do one thing, in another culture, it's wrong to do the very same thing. So how do you judge what's moral? That's a very subjective thing. Or that there's some kind of dark force and a good force out there, and the dark force is always trying to battle the good force, and that doesn't kind of make sense either in the physical world or the spiritual world, because we see through the principle of polarity that we need to have both sides of the pole in order for life to continue existing. We need night and we need day. There are things on this planet that are important for the planet's survival and for our survival and for the survival of other animals that come out at night, or that need that change of things and environment. Other animals and plants that are more day creatures. So we have this day and night thing going on. Is night bad? Is night evil? And day good? And should we annihilate the night and only have the day? That's not going to work. Then of course we've got animals. We've got animals that are very peaceful animals. They are really only predatory in regards to eating plants. So we tend to see them as being peaceful because they won't eat us anyway. And then there's other animals that will eat us and attack us, and therefore are they evil? And the others good, and should we annihilate the evil animals? And that has happened in the past in the West, where predatory animals have been seen as being evil creatures, and they've been hunted almost to extinction or hunted out of an environment. And we've seen the environmental disaster that has caused. We need to have those polarities operating and understanding that there is destruction and there is creation. And even in the spirit world, there are spirits that are in charge of that side of the polarity, like the lions and the spiders and those creatures are. There are spirits that do feed on people's energy, and they do feed on negative energy. And there are spirits who are like parasites and want to, attach themselves and want to possess and those things, because that's their function, like a tapeworm is a parasite. It's part of the whole ecosystem. So how do we go about, why do we go about labeling these things good and labeling these things evil? Obviously, if something is harmful, we want to do things to protect ourselves from it. So I'm not saying that don't do protection magic or don't protect yourself from your next encounter with a grizzly bear, but we have to be realistic about this human-centric thing that we've got going, that we're somehow the most important species on the planet and that everything is out to either get us or to save us. We're so arrogant to think that there's these evil forces are trying to destroy us wonderful, amazing humans, and there's these good guys out there, from aliens to spiritual forces, who are like the good guys and they're trying to save us because we're just such wonderful beings, us human creatures, aren't we? It doesn't make sense when you start to understand how nature works, that good and evil really aren't real things. A lot of the evil, the real evil that we see in the world, so these really deplorable acts that we see human beings committing, where you've got more like a conscious desire to harm, rather than it just being something that is biological and part of an animal's behavior, such as a cat will hunt because that's a cat's nature to hunt. With us humans, we have the ability to be able to step back and look at ourselves and to be able to discern whether something is going to be harmful and what the outcome is going to be. So we humans have the ability to act in ways that are deplorable and are really harmful and could be considered evil, if you're looking at the word evil being similar to harmful, deplorable, consciously trying to be nasty, perhaps. But that's a human thing. It's something we humans are creating. And personally, I think we humans create good and evil in the world, where it starts and where it stops. And if we understand that it isn't some kind of big thing that's going on outside of ourselves, that these behaviors are to do with ourselves, and to understand that from nature's point of view and from a spiritual point of view, we're all just part of one big ecosystem, and we can experience that dance and sometimes a bit of a competition between the two sides of the polarity. But it's not about having to annihilate one in order to be able to only ever have the other. That this is a much bigger picture. A lot of the labeling of evil that we human beings like to put on other people and say, oh, that person's evil, or that's an evil thing. I mean, witches are always we're always being told we're evil. It's also a cop-out for us humans to not look at ourselves and see the shadow side within ourselves, and how we too could also be creating or indulging in some of these so-called evil acts. I mean, we've seen throughout history how mass hysteria can create really horrible situations. So you've got the mass hysteria around the witch hunts, for example, where people were dobbing in other people as witches simply because they had a grudge against them. Yet those very same people would probably see themselves as being good, upright citizens, and in another context they may actually be quite nice to each other or nice in other situations. And all of us have that ability to fall into mass hysteria and go with the flow or go with the herd. We see that a lot even now with some of the political extremes that people are on in some places. It's very easy for us to get caught up in this judgment of others and blaming others and just saying, oh, they're evil. and not seeing that this is also something that we too could actually have within ourselves, and that's where the shadow work comes in. So I'm hoping this all makes sense, because I'm kind of just letting it flow through me rather than preparing what I was going to say, because I do feel this is an important moment for us humans in our evolution to understand that while we insist on labeling some things good and some things evil, we're actually missing the whole point of understanding the bigger picture. And when we can understand the bigger picture, we're able to work much more holistically and in much more synchronization with the way that the greater consciousness works and the way that our planet is trying to heal herself, and being a part of thinking way bigger than how we have been thinking about things in the past. This is something we can quite easily embrace within Wicca and within paganism, because we're not bogged down by this good and evil thing running through our theology. We have the freedom to understand that our deities, the deities we work with, they have qualities that are shadow and light qualities. And working with Hecate, for example, she has her wrathful side and she has her very nurturing side as well. And it's just understanding that these actually also exist within ourselves. And part of that self-love and self-acceptance, which I've also done a video on recently, is understanding these things within ourselves. So have a meditate on the concept of good and evil. It's not a license to just run amok and be a really horrible, nasty person just because, okay, well, evil doesn't exist, that means I can do what I like. There are always repercussions to our acts. There is always a feedback system going on with the universe, between us and the universe. So when we do act out, we usually do get a feedback about that coming back at us. It's a mirror thing. All I'm saying is that we need to broaden our perspective and understand that we have to get away from labeling things good and evil. Now, if you've wanted to practice Wicca and you find yourself stumbling about knowing where to start, like what practices do I start with and how do I learn all of this stuff that's out there to learn about Wicca and witchcraft, do sign up for my 20-minute, 25-minute free online video. It's called How to Start Your Witchcraft Practice, and you can download it by clicking on a link below this video, and it will just give you a blueprint as to how you can start navigating your way through the practices and form of Wicca. If you liked the video, hit the like button, share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm Sandra from mysterywitchschool.com. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next video.